Okay, we made it, finally. So, step number 1 to self-portrait photography. Number 1 is hang up your equipment. Weird as it sounds, and it's a simple little thing, but just make sure you hang up your stuff, because I've been here in the spring, summer months, and the ticks are so bad. I've had them on my legs before. So just hang up your stuff, especially if you're changing your clothes, keep everything off the ground. That will be a lifesaver, because you've got to think about these things. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is I'm gonna get my camera out of my bag in just a minute, and I'm gonna have a wander around. I'm gonna get a feel for the lighting at this time of day. It's morning time, so the lighting's a bit different. And I'm just going to get a feel for the lighting, feel from my compositions, a feel for my framing, and an idea of what I'm thinking about that I'm going to shoot. It's probably going to involve something on the tree and something on the ground, as I brought a ring with me to do some gymnastic-y stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. So that is step number 1. Okay, so we are ready to move on to stage number 2, which is focus and aperture. This is really important. You want to make sure you stick in an aperture that's relatively, well, not high. Obviously, you've got to go with your surroundings. So at the moment, I'm in a kind of dim lit woods. So I've got to keep my aperture a bit low because I want my shutter speed fast. So just make sure you pick a good aperture that's not going to cause any issues with the line of focus once you go over to your self-portrait point. And I'll try and explain this a bit more. Okay, so what I'm trying to explain is the difference of depth of field between apertures. So if you set your camera up to, for example, say 2.8 f-stop, excuse my drawing, I did say I couldn't draw, and then you set your camera up to f11, which is a narrower aperture, what you've got to think about is your depth of field. So if you are stood here with your camera, and you've got your focus point sorted out, and then you go stand at your point of focus that you've selected for your self-portrait shot, this area around you is going to be marginally small, the focus area that is. This area will be small from where you stood because of the aperture you've selected. Whereas if you're stood here with your camera, and you go over to your focus point, just the same, at f11, this focus area, your depth of field, is going to be wider. You're going to have a larger depth of field because of that aperture. But then you also won't get the blurred background like you would with the wider aperture. This area will be in focus as well. But what it means is, and this is what you have to think about, if you're going to go for something less than 2.8, which you can do, and I've shot at 1.2 before, if you're going to go at a wide aperture, you have to make sure that where you stand is exactly at that optimum point for your focus point for that aperture. Otherwise, if you stand slightly offside to this bit here, say you've stood here, you will not be in focus, and it could literally just be a few millimeters. So what I'd say is when you find your optimum point of focus and you've tested the shot a few times, I would kick the ground, get a bit of dirt, mark it with a cross, or just put something there in the place so you know exactly where you need to stand when you come back from your focusing your camera to going back to your starting point. So just make sure that you're really going to think about what aperture you're going to use. So I'd say to start off with, I wouldn't use anything below 2.4 or 2.8. I don't know if 2.4 is even an aperture. I can't even think now. But don't go below 2.8. And if you have to, then don't go below 2. That'll be my advice. So I'm doing mine at 2 because I need a slightly faster shutter speed, and I will show you why in a minute. Eric, you okay? He's just sat over there. He's come over. Hiya, bud. Hiya. Oh, what's your advice, Eric? Just look cute. You did it. You did it. You did it. You always do it. Okay, so we've got our aperture sorted out. The next thing we're going to sort out is our focus. This is the tricky part. Now, what I'm going to suggest is there's 2 options you can do this. You can, 1, use a prop, and right now I've got a ring on a hoop over there, so that's fine. That's what I'm going to do. Or 2, you can put a prop there. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. And yeah, hold that thought. So as you can see, I'm going to use Eric as my prop. He is sat right under where I'm going to be doing my picture. So I'm going to focus on him, and then I know that he's in the good spot where I need him to be, and that's good. So you can use your dog, your bag, you can use a branch, a stick. I could have just used the gymnastic ring, but I decided to let Eric be my prop. So I focused on him. He stood nice and still there, bless him. And then what you're going to do is, after you've got your focus, you're going to swap your camera to manual focus. Now, it is absolute key that you swap your camera to manual focus and you don't touch it again. Don't even look at it, don't even think about it, just don't even touch it. Because the problem is if you leave it in autofocus, as soon as you walk over to the point where you'll be taking the picture, your camera will automatically move as you're walking away. And I've done this before and it's so annoying, and you don't realize you've got so many pictures and none of them are in focus. So swap it to manual focus and don't touch it again unless you need to because it's out of focus. But don't touch the manual focus, just leave it, and that's it. Once you've got your focus point, leave it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some sample shots. I'm going to set the time lapse on my camera and I'm going to take some sample shots and I'm going to see if I'm happy with the focus point and if everything's where it's meant to be. So that's a key as well. So aperture, focus, manual focus, test shots. That is the part of this stage, which I can't remember what we're on. 3? Stage 3? Is this 3? Are we still on stage 2? I can't remember. As you can see in these test shots, the light changes quite rapidly between them. And this is something to be mindful of. So keep regularly checking your settings, especially when shooting in manual. And also keep an eye out for any cheeky photo bombers. Okay, so as you can see, the test shot came out all right. It's nothing special, I'm just literally just getting a test shot. And the next stage now, which I think is stage 3, I don't know, I'm sorry, I can't even count. The next stage now is to set up your interval shooter. So I've got my camera on standard shooting mode. You could do this on burst, and I've not actually tried it on burst because 2 reasons. One, my camera can't keep up. If you're doing, so for example, if I set my interval shooting for every second is what I'm going to do, and then I got it on burst every second and I'm shooting in RAW, my camera can't keep up with all those images, so then it starts to get a bit of a backlog and it can't write the speed it needs to, so then it kind of just slows down. So that's why I just do 1 picture every second. And then the second point is, if you're then shooting tons of pictures and you've got burst shot after burst shot, every second of raw images, you've got to go for them all afterwards, and no one's got time for that. So 1 picture every second. I don't know what this is, but it works for me. If you're sat down somewhere, or if you've got to wander further away, which I will do afterwards, I then will set the timer to something different. That's if I'm sat down or if I'm stood still. But if I've got to wander still and then stand somewhere, I will still keep it to every second, and I will also set the timer to go straight away. So my interval settings are every second, 1 picture every second, and then to start immediately, because I've done it before. I've asked the camera to start a minute later and I've been stood there and I can't hear the camera, so sometimes it just doesn't work. I don't know, maybe it's me, but yeah, so 1 shot every second, immediately starting. That is your interval settings if you're doing something with movement. If you're doing something further away, do it. Or when you're sat down, every 3 or 4 seconds you can do 1 picture. 1 picture every 3 or 4 seconds, start immediately. So that is my recommendations. I wouldn't bother with burst or multiple shots in one, because you will clog up your camera and then you won't get your pictures. So that is stage 3, which I'm going to do right now. So that is stage 3, and now moving on to stage 4, which is getting changed, because I'm not going to do some photos in this very fancy outfit. It's very cold here, so I'm going to do my best to be quick with this because it is pretty chilly. So I'm going to get changed, no peeking, and then I'm going to set my timer, my interval timer, and then I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to show you how they've come out, if they've come out, and fingers crossed it works. But if it doesn't, don't worry about it. This is what happens. This is how you learn. So I try it in this position, this location, and then I'm going to move around more and do some different bits and pieces, because then I won't be talking as much, because otherwise I get cold. So yeah, wish me luck.
I'm back. I've done a few shots. I don't really know how they've looked, how they've come out, because I'm absolutely freezing. It's so cold. But I just, yeah, I don't know how they've come out. I'm just doing it for the sake of this. And I'm gonna try and do, I'm just looking for another spot at the minute that I can do some more pictures. And I might do some standing stuff, not just on the rings. But it's very cold, but very, very beautiful. It's such a nice day. Come on. It is so good. I absolutely love it out here. As you can see by my face, this is where I'm like the most happy is, yeah, I'm getting a bit emotional now. It's when I'm the most happy, when I'm outside with nature. And this is what photography is for me. It isn't about pictures for posting or making stuff like that. It's just, I enjoy it. I actually really enjoy taking pictures, and I love the fun of it and being out with nature, and yeah, it's just so much fun, and you can't beat this. Look at it, it's just trees everywhere. Anyway, I'll shut up and I shall get on, and yeah, if they came out alright, I'll show you some pictures in a minute. And if they didn't, then I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, I shall get on. Okay, bye.
Okay, so that is the end of this episode. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful. There is one more left, so hang in there. And I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.